Good evening, everybody. I would like to call the New Kent County School Board regular meeting on Monday, August 9th, 2021 to order. And Ms. Barber, I'm sorry, do I hear a motion to go, I'm sorry, do I hear a motion to come out of closed session?
I move we come out of closed session.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
And a vote, please.
Aye.
All right, Ms. Barber, can you please read the certification of closed session?
Whereas the New Kent County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the New Kent County School Board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the New Kent County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirement by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the New Kent County School Board.
And do I hear a motion to approve the certification of the closed session?
Make a motion, we approve the certification as read.
Second?
Second.
And a vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. We're in this evening's meeting, and before we get started officially with our Pledge of Allegiance, I would just like to let everybody know that our board chair, Andrea Staskill, cannot be here with us this evening. So I am stepping in as board chair for this evening. All right, and now can we have a Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And the first item on our agenda for this evening is school board member and superintendent comments. Do I have any school board members with opening comments this evening? Ms. Barber?
I'd just like to reflect back on graduation, because it was really a remarkable experience. It was nice to have it here at the gym in the building. It was a little bit small, but the opportunity to celebrate once a year with our seniors as they move on is really very special, and really recognize how important everything that we do is. And you see on the students' faces as they walk across the stage, it's just priceless seeing that with each student, and thankful that we were able to do that in person this year.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Barber. And Ms. McBeef, any comments from you?
Well, this is actually my first official board meeting, and I've been to 2 work sessions previously, and I appreciate the support from the community to come out and participate and learn what's going on with the school board, and to share your feedback.
Mr. Mead.
I just want to say that as we are entering into the summer process and preparing for the fall, I know that the challenges that have been faced by Dr. Nichols and Ms. Clark and having Mr. Hockman here, Mr. Miller, and Ms. Moran, the board, is that we're in a much different place today than we were a year ago. And I am very grateful for all the hard work that the superintendent and his staff and administration have put into getting us to this point. So I look forward to, as we open school, to move even further forward. Another thing I like to say is that I appreciate all of the people that have showed up this evening. And I can say, as a school board member, being here now my second year, is that this is probably by far the most people that have showed up at a public hearing of the school board agenda that has been in the last 2 years. And my point to that is, my personal opinion is, this is the way it should be every single school board. because you are the constituents that elected us to be here to represent the community. And so it is because of you and your opinions and your feedback that allow us to represent the school. And so my encouragement to you is do not be strangers when it comes to voicing your opinions within the school division. That's why you elected us. And for your voice to be heard, you have to show up. And so I would encourage you, just like this evening and in future meetings, to show up and voice your opinion, because we don't know what we don't know. And when we do know it, we're able to make better decisions to represent you, your families, and the community. So thank you so much for showing up and for voicing your concerns just by your attendance and being here.
Thank you. Dr. Nichols, superintendent comments?
Sure. Good evening. Echoing some of those comments that have already been said, I'm excited to see the crowd here. The last time we had a large crowd is when we looked at moving the calendar by a couple of weeks. So we do appreciate the feedback. It's always good to get that interaction. I want to make the offer publicly, but also is that you have access to me at any time as the superintendent, whether in the community, by phone, meeting, to talk through issues as we go through. Because I'm not just the superintendent, I'm a resident and a father of a young man who should go across that graduation stage at the end of this school year. And it's not lost on me as we go into our third school year dealing with the pandemic that's had challenges in all facets of life, that I have a young man at home right now who is, most of his high school career has been extremely disrupted. And it's my goal for all of our kids to come back full force 5 days a week and work through this pandemic and work through these challenges, knowing that we'd be doing this anywhere we were. I'm happy to be here in New Kent working through it with this community. So I just want to say thank you for your, as I end every phone call, thank you for your flexibility and support, because the rules continue to change. The guidance continues to change. We're here to make the next best decision, and I'm very proud of the work we'll continue to do. So thank you, Ms. Swinford.
Thank you. And I just also want to thank everybody for attending this evening. As I turn around, I keep finding more people. So it's wonderful to see parents, grandparents, members of the community committed to what we do here in New Kent County Public Schools. As far as my opening comments, I just wanted to take a minute to thank Dr. Nichols and his staff for the Summer of More. We successfully completed that program over 4 weeks in July. I think it was a great opportunity for our students and our teachers to extend learning into the summer. It was really a project-based learning approach where students were able to really foster creativity, learning, and innovation in the classroom. So again, thank you for that opportunity, Dr. Nichols. I know that was many, many months in the planning, and from all accounts, it was very successful. Our elementary school continues to make progress. Our new elementary school, Quinton Elementary School, after we broke ground in February, the construction progress continues. Many of you have seen pictures, drive by it, and we're definitely excited about the work that continues there. And on a personnel note, I'd like to thank Dr. Nichols for the work that he's done to really organize and create a central office, a team of leaders that he worked very strongly over the past 2 years to put people in place in the right positions. A lot of times people don't see that, but he's worked very hard to get people into new positions, not only in the central office, but in each of our schools. And I just want to take a second just to mention their names again. Some have been on board a little bit longer than others, but it's important for you to understand who these people are. Jeremy Hoffman is our Assistant Superintendent of Operations. Allison Anderson is not here this evening, but she is our new Executive Director of Human Resources. She has a very important job. Dr. Clark has been on board with us since November, so you're a veteran now, but she is our Executive Director of Exceptional Education and Student Services, so we definitely appreciate having you on board. Jamie Hutchinson, who's not here this evening, she's our Supervisor of Secondary Curriculum and Instruction. Stephanie Sutton is an Assistant Principal at George Watkins. We have Kyle Moser is our Planning Principal at Quinton Elementary School. Mr. Frank Wheeler, who's here this evening, is our new principal at New Kent Middle School, so we're happy to have him in that position, and Dr. Amy Stam at the new principal at New Kent Elementary. So I really just wanted to make sure that we just, put those names out there again. And again, Dr. Nichols has really done a good job in creating a strong leadership team, and we look forward to working with all of them. And finally, to everybody here, I'm a parent of children in New Kent County Public Schools, and we're definitely aware that parents, guardians, and students are very interested to know the details regarding the health and safety protocols that will be in place when school starts on September 7th. And given the fluidity of the current situation, New Kent County Public Schools continues to monitor the dynamic nature of the pandemic as it plays out in our community, and refines our in-classroom health protocols. One thing we ask is that we certainly ask that our community will be characterized by a spirit of cooperation, by generosity, and by grace as we navigate the waters ahead. So thank you very much, and we'll move forward with the agenda. The next item on our agenda this evening is consent agenda, correct? Oh, no, I'm sorry, recognitions, Dr. Nichols, nominations to the 2021 VSBA Media Honor Roll.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ms. Swinford. So annually, we nominate someone to the 2021 VSBA Media Honor Roll. And I think he's gone back to back on this one, and no exception today. The VSBA Media Honor Roll was created to recognize fair and balanced reporting about our schools and Virginia public education system. Noting the importance role reporters and media outlets play in education, school division leaders rely on responsible reporting by local media representatives so that our community members receive timely information about division initiatives and programs. Each year, the VSBA seeks nominations to their Media Honor Roll list. And before I go with our nomination, the reason we nominate this person is because he's always there to report all sides of everything. He wants the good news. He wants the updated news. He wants the bad news and everything in between. I will tell you, we don't have partners like that everywhere. I have certain stations that only call when something bad happens. That's not a partner in this work. The partner is reporting all sides of it. And we're very pleased and excited to nominate Mr. Andre Jones of the New Kent Charles City Chronicle, who's here with us today. Mr. Jones has always reported events in New Kent fairly and accurately, and we're incredibly fortunate to have him. So once again, Mr. Jones, thank you for the work you do and your nomination, and we'll come back once VSBA has done their work with it. So thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Board members, by now you have had the opportunity to review the items listed on the consent agenda, including minutes from previous meetings, bills and payroll, monthly financials, and the superintendent's recommendations regarding personnel matters. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, and a vote, please.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Moving along, the next item, number 6, is citizen comment period. All right, we have 13 people signed up to speak this evening. Before we go ahead and get started, I would just like to read our statement. Before we begin, I would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight to speak. Please note that comments are limited to 3 minutes. Once the timer sounds, please promptly finish your comment and return to your seat. It is customary for the school board not to make comment during the citizen comment period. please make sure your contact information is provided on the sign-up sheet if you would like someone to follow up with you. All right, thank you again for coming. And our first speaker this evening is Mr. J.B. Benson. Mr. Benson.
Good evening, I'm J.V. Benson, 3902 Homestead Road in Nixon. Madam Chair, first thing I want to do is to thank members of the board for stepping up to serve our county. Educating our children and preparing them for life is an awesome responsibility. It's one for which you receive very little recognition or appreciation unless there's some kind of a problem. I'm sure. Many of our citizens don't even know who their supervisor is. Ask some of them sometimes, you'll find out. And even a fewer number know who represents them on the school board. And judging by our audience tonight, you're not going to be laboring in obscurity very much longer. Look forward to hearing what they have to say. Sometimes it's triggering incidents triggering issues like CRT, transgender bathrooms, masking mandates that get people's attention, and that's a good thing. There's a lot more to education than those issues, but I'm sure you'll be hearing more about those tonight. My primary and overarching concern is not for those particular issues, although they're very important. My concern is for the basic core job of educators. Are our graduates able to read, write, perform math problems? Do they understand our country's history and culture? Do they realize how fortunate they are to live in this country of generosity and tolerance? And I hope that our teachers will help them in the future understand that they're very fortunate to be here and realize there's more to teaching than just the reading and writing. So again, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next, is it WESS the third? Sorry. Okay. Please come. Yeah, please come up. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Again, we echo, we want to thank you for your service. We want to thank you for all your hard work. And we also want to ask for your forgiveness for our apathy in the past. We are now engaged. And I'm here to tell you, I kind of represent a little group of community that we've gotten together recently. And it is, the impetus was this critical race theory and what was going on in Mountain County. That has inspired a lot of people to go from passivity to activism. And this is basically what we're here for. We understand all the issues of the mask and all that. My concern, I used to be a high school teacher. I also taught multicultural studies when it was multicultural studies, not this propaganda, not this Marxist agenda that it is today. And as an educator, I'm here because I love kids. I don't have children in the system, but I still have a heart of a teacher. And I really want to stress a couple of things to you. That I know you know this, but I want to remind you on behalf of our citizens that the school is to educate, not to indoctrinate. Okay? Is to teach objective truth and facts, not propaganda. It's to teach history, not rewrite history. I taught history, and I taught all sides. When we discussed slavery, I showed them the pictures of how they were transported. The kids cried. I didn't hide the good, the bad, and the ugly. I taught. But today, with this critical race theory. The premise is that our country is a racist, horrible country, and that there is no redeeming value. I disagree with that. History disagrees with that. And so please make sure that our books are teaching correct history, not rewriting it based on this 1619 project, which is an academic disaster, has no merit. We're here to promote good citizenship, not hatred for our country. And we're here to produce law-abiding citizens that will contribute to society, not political activists that hate our country. And this is what's taking place all throughout the United States. The focus of education, and my focus as a teacher, was the individual student. And I did not see a student as a member of an oppressor or oppressed minority, or oppressor white, or an oppressed minority. So I want you to, when you're doing your duties, keep those tenets in mind. We're here to educate, not indoctrinate. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next,
Oh, Angie, did you sign up?
Caldwell, I
Oh,
didn't see
she's
the,
passed. She's passed.
okay. And our Caldwell,
Yeah, Randy.
gotcha, Randy, sorry. Yeah, okay, got you. Next, Penny Ortega. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this was a sign-up sheet to speak, not just to, okay, Peter Londing,
Yeah.
thank you.
My name is Peter Lunding. I live at 8865 Greenwood Boulevard in New Kent. I too want to thank the board for its participation and its volunteering to do this work, which is, as many people on the board know, it's pretty laborious. I know there's going to be a lot of issues coming before this board this year and in future years. And I hope that the focus of the board and the focus for the schools is really on the education of the students, the individual students, and that they receive the very basic things that they need to have in a very well-taught manner. They need to know the reading, the writing, the math, the science, the historical facts and opinions. And my expectation is that the school board and the teachers in the school leave the morality, character, and values teaching and political indoctrination to the parents. Very important. Morality, character, and values are the job of parents, not of teachers, not of the schools, not of the school. And I hope the school board, when they're looking at all the issues that come before it over the next year and in future years, look at that and say, we're here to teach the students so they can have the skill set that they need to have to go out in life and do what they need to do, take the next step, whether it's going to college or whether it's going immediately to work, or it's joining the military or going to some type of other type of vocational school. They need the skill sets that take them to the next level, and they don't need morality, character, and values being taught by the school. And in fact, finally, I want to encourage everybody that's here. I mean, I'm incredibly encouraged the number of people who showed up today. I will make the commitment, not necessarily to be here every week, but I will be here frequently, because I think it's important that you understand what the community wants. And I want to once again thank you. I want to thank everybody. I want to encourage everybody to come to all these meetings as much as they can. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our list, and I apologize if I mispronounced, Jared, is it Hawk or Hark?
Harper,
Hark,
yeah, with an H.
yep.
My
Thank you.
handwriting's pretty bad.
That's all right.
And good evening, by the way, and yeah, thank you guys for all that you do, and all the proper formal salutations as well. Members of the board, superintendent, thank you guys all for what you do. want you to know that the community is praying for you guys. I think now more than ever, this role, this position holds a lot more authority than it's ever held before. With the climate of our culture shifting so drastically. So I want you to know that we're appreciative of you and we're praying for you by name. I love y'all's name. Is that y'all's cell number on the website? Because I'm trying to figure out if I can get lunch sometime. Y'all put y'all's cell number on the website?
Some have cell numbers, some have.
Awesome.
phone
I'm
numbers.
changing mine.
I already saved it today, bro. I saved it
Stop.
today. I'll text y'all.
You got 1 minute.
Hey, so it's obviously not customary, as I've heard, and I'm new to this, and I really don't make any apology for that, but I hope to be more involved in the future. But it's not customary for you guys to answer questions, I understand. I don't know if we're allowed to get uncustomary. Yeah, I got a couple of questions because I haven't been involved, and number one is, did the board make a decision on the model policies that were sent down by Governor Northam regarding critical race theory and regarding transgender bathroom policy? Did the board make a decision on that? We're gonna stay customary.
They're my bosses, so I defer to them.
Did we
so.
make a decision?
We did not change any of our policy on those decisions after we were advised by our council that our current policy was definitely well within our means, and we had no changes to make. But Dr.
So
Nichols,
you did not adopt the governor's recommended policy?
So I'll jump in now. So critical race theory, and I know some of you are here to speak about that. It's not a part of our curriculum. It's not been going to be a part of our curriculum. We follow the standards set forth by the state of Virginia, and then the textbooks are approved throughout that. So that's not a part of what we do, and there's no intent to be a part of that. And the model transgender policy that was put forth by the Virginia Department of Education has not been put forward to this board, and there are no plans to do that. That's not to say we don't protect every kid and look out for every kid and do all those kind of things. I don't want those things. I'm just answering the question directly as you asked it. But so under those two things, which I know, now I'm gonna go over my 3 minutes.
Did y'all pause my time?
No, it's still
I'll take my time back.
Miller.
It's still right.
But so this is generated, and since we have so many people here, I just gotta take time. It's generated a lot of conversation, and I wish we could generate some more conversation on how do we get kids into trades and how do we get kids in. So I mean, keep this energy going, and we'll answer those questions. But how do we do some big? I'm here for a long time, and I'm trying to do some historic things for our community and partner. But how do we do those things together? So that's kind of my 3 minutes and challenge to this group as we go through that. So when you ask a question, I take the liberty to go in a little bit different direction. But yeah, absolutely. So, all right.
All right.
We'll put you back on. I'm done.
All right, now, and so I'll shift this one to more of a statement, because I'm sure you guys have legal counsel that's far more qualified than me, but I will, a little bit of research that I have done, the governor's recent press conference holds no legal authority over you. He had the ability to make executive orders during a state of emergency. That has expired. If you look closely at the wording, he made an executive directive. I don't know what that means legally, but it is not an executive order. And he references SB Senate Bill 1303. That bill was written by conservative lawmakers and voted on by conservative lawmakers to ensure, and you're probably more familiar with it than I am, so I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but I want to make sure you know. It was written to ensure that all children get the opportunity to in-person learning. Had nothing to do with masks at all. But he references that and is trying to use that as authority over you on your policy and what to do. He doesn't have that authority to do that, and that law has nothing to do with that. So I'll just say that, and then I'll leave you with this. The prophet Jeremiah in the Bible, the prophet Jeremiah, he's writing to the exiles of Israel. And I just want to give you this charge. I think the authority God's given you in your position is a big deal. I just want to remind you of that. So he's basically writing to the prophet Daniel, who was exiled in Israel. And this is what he says to those who had leadership position in a government that was trying to overreach. He said, remember this, he said, seek the welfare of the city where I've sent you into exile. And in its welfare, you'll find your welfare. So we recognize you guys are making decisions for the community. If you'll do what's best for you and your family, according to God, it'll be best for our family. before you go. So I would just encourage you to lean on the word.
All right, next is Anna Atkins.
Thank you again, like the other one said, just for your service. I really appreciate it. And I'm standing here not as a minority, not a Hispanic woman of color, because that does not define who I am. I'm standing here as a daughter of the Most High, who created me just like you, with a high purpose to live abundantly and without fear. And I'm very concerned. As a health provider, I've seen firsthand the physical and psychological damage that this pandemic has created, not only in adults, but our children. Our children are living in fear, afraid to even remove their masks for me to address an issue in their mouths. They are scared of physical contact, and I have seen a tremendous amount of children on depression and anxiety medications, when we know that children have a very low risk of getting the virus. Second, I am against the school engaging in the teaching of critical race theory. It causes division and hate. It is my job as a parent to address and teach my children about their relationship with God, sexuality, values, and morals, not the school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next is Mr. Greg Pullum.
How y'all doing? I'll be real quick. I'm a former educator myself. I taught for 5 years of special education at Thomasdale High School. My mom is retired from Chesterfield County Schools as a security guard. She was the first woman security guard at Chesterfield County Schools and retired there. My brother also taught for 10 years special education. We both taught football. So I want to thank y'all for your service and also being on the board. I know what you're doing is not easy. I'm going to first tell you, y'all are taking some shots and have to deal with some heavy stuff. But at the same time, welcome to stewardship. Amen. That's where you're at. I just want to leave you with something. I study a lot of Martin Luther King and learn a lot from him. He said this something, and again, I'm here, I'm representing the church. I make no mistake about that. I am all about the church. I'm about the church's influence, and that's who I represent. And because Martin Luther King Jr. said this, the church must be reminded that it is not the master or the servant of the state, but rather it is the conscience of the state. It must be the guide and the critic of the state, and never its tool. Further, if the church does not recapture its prophetic zeal, it will become an irrelevant social club without moral or spiritual authority. So I'm here to tell you, it's not a threat. We're here to work beside you and with you, but the church will be the conscience of the state. We are praying for you. We are involved. Our church is growing in number and our kids go to these schools. We pray for their teachers. They love you. They admire you. We teach our kids to respect teachers and all authority. So it does scare me what they're being taught. Amen. They're going to listen to everything you say. If they don't, come tell us. But at the same time, if it's contrary to what they're taught in the Word of God, they should deny it and go against it. So I'm just saying the church is here to support you, but we are going to be present. Amen. And one last thing, I think a lot about Jesus speaking to the little children and warning us about teaching children. He says in Matthew 18:6, whoever causes one of these little ones to stumble, who believes in me, he said it would be better for them to have a millstone over their head and thrown in the sea to drown. I do believe mass and critical race theories and stuff like that is hindering children from growing and truly learning and growing up. I also believe when Jesus said, do never hinder little children from coming to me. It is a scary, scary thing, as Dr. Atkins said, when kids come into your coffee shop or come into your church and they're wearing a mask and they're backing up and they won't come near you and they won't talk. It's a scary, scary thing. And I believe we're violating what Jesus said about hindering the children. That's what I believe. I'll take it a step farther, which really scares me. And again, this isn't directly towards this board because evidently y'all directed the right policies. Praise God. And I'm proud of you guys. But I begin to think, as we begin to identify people in this country and label them, et cetera, and not to get too political, but if you remember, it was Adolf Hitler who decided to put a star on all the Jewish people, including the children. He sewed it on every piece of their clothing because he too said they were infected and different. And we're not human beings anymore. He would march them in lines everywhere they went, treated them as non-humans. So let's be mindful of that as we educate our children. Amen. You have a friend in Journey Christian Fellowship. You have a friend in the church. We will be a voice and we will be a conscience of the state. Amen. Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Mark Daniel.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mark Daniel. What an honor it is to be with you. And again, I echo some of the statements of Dr. Atkins who spoke before me. I want to speak specifically about two things that are on my mind. I know these have already been mentioned, but it would help me to say this. Hope you listen. Specifically with regards to the masks, there may come a time when masks are going to be required. We've seen it before, but that time is not upon us yet. And I think it'll be borne out by events. And we heard a speech last week given by our governor where he rambled about, and for me, it left more questions than it did answers. And quite frankly, it's my opinion that the governor, instead of making a decision, and we know he can do it because he's done it before, right? He's trying to take an unpopular decision and pass it along to you because he doesn't want to take that for himself. Unfortunate as that is, I would tell you that Dr. Siobhan Donovan, I want to make sure I pronounced her name right because I messed it up 4 times coming up here. Siobhan Donovan, who is a medical doctor, she's an OGBYN. She sponsored the bill, and she says that the language of SB 1303 is clear. CDC guidance should be followed as far as practicable. So forcing small children to wear a mask to protect adults who can be vaccinated is not practicable. My friend Grattan Stevens wrote a letter to some of you and he gave it to you. I hope you've seen it. If not, I'm glad to share it with you. He has 3 small boys in the school system. One of them is having some speech education, if you will. And he talked about the difficulty they were having when they came home with these masks. He said his boys were having headaches, they didn't want to eat. The one fellow, he said he thought it set him back a year. So forcing masks will hold language development in small children back and make school miserable for students who have already been through a year of this masking and a year of virtual schools. The solution is to make masking optional and vaccinate as many people as possible. I think anybody can agree on that. The governor's inconsistent message has destroyed trust and quite frankly, left more confusion than it has been for directions. You should know this. Sometimes at the board level, we're faced with these decisions. They come down to us when you have to do this, you have no choice. I can assure you, if you didn't have a choice, they wouldn't be asking you. So I hope that you be strong and be bold. And when the time comes, you will know it. And quite frankly, it's a time for strong leadership. You're the leaders. You have every bit of confidence that you'll do so. Next, and my final subject is, you mentioned critical race theory. But we're seeing some things that come down through some of the handouts from the Virginia Department of Education. And even those is interwoven with things that, even though they don't come right out and say critical race theory, they talk about equity instead of equality. There's a lot of buzzwords, well, whatever it is, semantics being what they are. My friend Charles Moss, when I was a boy, he was basically the baseball umpire. He called him even. Today, we come from 2 different parties. Our political views are different. But I'll tell you, I respect him. I think the world of him. 2-3 years ago, he came up with this thing called the Unity Bar. And I participated in it because he said that we should do things that unite us. And he couldn't be more right, as he has been his whole life, as long as I've known him. Anything that unites us is good. And anything with regards to a critical race theory or 2 different classes that divides us is something we should not follow. So I hope that you would keep that in mind. And I thank you for my chance to talk to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next is Sean Cole.
Afternoon. Sorry, I got here late. I didn't even think I was going to speak, so I didn't really think about it. But listening to people talk made me think about a couple things. It's pretty much the same thing all over. We're all the same people. Probably 95% of us out here are conservatives. I don't like to bring politics in it, but CRT is a liberal push, 100%. There are no conservatives pushing it. It came from, critical theory, which was came up with in the 70s to break down systems. That's the only reason the people that came up with it based it on Marxism to tear down systems. That was it. CRT is the exact same thing. They renamed it to tear down systems and are just going about it a little bit different. They're going to use race this time instead of economic class, things like that. I got 4 kids that go to New Kent, and I've seen a lot of kids here, talked to a lot of them. They don't know a whole lot about history anywhere, about anything. So I don't know where the school is failing, the teachers are failing. So back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, Jim Crow law, segregation, one group of people consider another group of people inferior. So now CRT is just reversing that and telling another group of people, you know what, you might not know it, but you're really messed up, and deep down inside of you, you're a racist. And it's just to cause chaos and just tear down the system. I think we need to focus on teaching our kids some real history instead of this. I think it's kind of garbage. I don't know if anybody would raise their hands up here. I've kind of just got involved with this. I've been sitting in the sidelines for way too long. Who's for this up here? Would anybody put their hands up? Because I know some of you are. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Ron Voigt.
I want to echo the sentiments of the rest of the other citizens who have come, and want to thank you for what you do and for the time investment that you make, the sacrifice from your own families and your time away. I have sat where you sat. I served Williamsburg, James City County prior to coming to New Kent County on the board there. I understand the decisions that need to be made, and that sometimes good things come in a hard way. I'm here today as a pastor of the River Church, and I am ecstatic to follow other pastors that have come and believers. And I come first and foremost in the name of Jesus Christ. But I also have grandchildren in the New Kent County school system. And I now, for the past 9 years, have been a resident of New Kent County myself. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of New Kent County. I'm very proud of what it represents. And I too want to tell you that we pray for you. We pray for each and every member of this board. We pray for the teachers that teach the students, the principals, the administration, and we will continue to do so irrespective of decisions that are made. Because we believe that God is still in authority, and He is the one who will direct the steps as long as we continue in our faith to call upon His name. I am, however, concerned about education in total, that we understand the role of a teacher and the role of a parent. A parent is to fashion those things which God has blessed them with that child to do: character, integrity, love, unity, respect for all, no matter what color or where they come from socioeconomically. Those are the things that I want to make certain that are left to the parents. The teachers, although in today's economy, the teachers, quite frankly, are being called to be parents by the students who aren't parented well, or who aren't, maybe not even have parents and are living with a grandparent and are in a bad way. And I realize that responsibility that falls on a teacher's shoulders. But nonetheless, that responsibility to teach must remain solid with the basic foundations of education. Education, not indoctrination. And as we see throughout our country, and even here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, in the northern part, in the northern counties, their total desire is to indoctrinate, change, and replace. And I can believe I can speak for the rest of the citizens in New Kent County that that is not what we desire. And however, let me close with this and say that we sincerely appreciate you. We will be here in numbers. We will believe, I believe this has sparked and activated a whole new move of recognition of what's going on. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And last on our list for citizen comment, Leslie Tribbett.
Well, I sure know now not to let about scandals.
We won't start your time until you get to the podium.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Leslie Tribbett. I'm a mom of 8-year-old twin boys. Actually, they turn 9 tomorrow. So they are rising 3rd graders. And I am not here representing a church, but I will say, as important as being a mother to my boys is, my first priority is to be a child of God and follow Jesus Christ. So want you to know that I have 2 points to make. But first I'm going to say, it is so awesome to see everybody here because I really got lonely standing up here during COVID. And it's just so good to see so many involved parents and citizens here. And I majored in speech communication at U of R, but I could not say it better than those of you who followed me. So I wholeheartedly agree with everything each speaker here has had to say. So I'm not going to try to do any better or repeat it. I have 2 points. The first is over the summer, and really for several years, I've had play dates with moms of my children's friends at the pool, at the Quitman Park, and we talk, and they're all saying recently, this is not working. The teachers are telling me that the social distancing of 3 feet that they have to maintain from their students is not allowing them to use their classrooms effectively. They're not allowed to interact with their students effectively, especially the younger students. The teachers need to see their mouths forming sounds. They need to have that personal connection with the students in order for it to work for them. So I will humbly beg you to do away with the 3-foot distancing rule, especially for our youngest students. The second thing is, gosh, I forgot the second thing. That was so important. The masking. Please just do away with it. You have the power, not the governor. And it's really causing a problem for many of our students. My medical history is not anybody's business, but I will tell you I have the vaccine. My husband has the vaccine. We made that decision for personal reasons, not because I trust the CDC or any particular government agency. But what's most important is that our children are not masked, they're not kept from their teachers, and they're allowed to be free and happy and learn in a free environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again to everybody for citizen comments this evening. Really do appreciate it. Moving along in our agenda under new business. Opening of schools, which is in alignment with essential goal number 2, communicate with the community regarding resources, safety, and school success. Dr. Nichols.
All right, so thank you, Ms. Swinford. We're going to talk a little bit about opening of schools. There is not a planned vote this evening on anything. This is just where the information is today. What I learned through this process last year, as we did, I think 7,000 return to learn presentations, is every time we lined up, we got different guidance and different shifts. And this past week has been no different. The governor did have a press conference on Thursday at 2 o'clock. If you think superintendents really got like a sneak peek and knew it was coming, I assure you I learned it with you. which doesn't make for good communication on my side and really working this through. But this is where we are today. We'll come back in a work session, provide additional information. So opening of schools. Want to talk about the fact that we really kept school going through the summer, and Ms. Swinford recognized our Summer of More program. We knew that there were gaps for students and gaps in learning and socialization and a lot of different things. So we launched our Summer of More program, meaningful opportunities for real world engagement, and had a very successful summer experience for students. And this was in grades K through 12. And you can see some of the pictures, whether it was teacher learning or student learning. We were outside a ton. We built things, we made things happen. We partnered with the fire department. I hope that math problem on the bottom right is correct. We did all of this work just in an effort to really wrap around kids and work with students and work with our teachers with an eye on launching 5 days a week full in the fall. So just wanted to highlight a couple of those. Along those same lines, there's going to be even more Summer of More. So if you thought you could put more and more words in the same line, you can. We were just awarded on Friday a $50,000 planning grant from the Virginia Department of Education. It was a competitive grant for us to extend additional learning opportunities. So partner with the community and provide even more opportunities for kids. So we're very excited about that. More information coming soon. So our 21-22 opening of school guiding principles. We know that students benefit most from in-person learning. We know that education and safety should be top priorities. We want to focus as much as possible on prevention, consider community needs, and last year taught us more than anything else to be flexible and innovative. So as things adjust, as things shift, that we continue to shift with it, with the priority of being in person. So those are our guiding principles. Just a reminder, and several speakers mentioned vaccine guidance availability. It is readily available. And put a link there. If you see this presentation online, you can click on that link and find your nearest vaccination resource center. We have partnered with the Chickahominy Health District in New Kent County to offer a number of vaccination clinics, both for adults and students. If that need arises, we'll continue to do that partnership to just make it accessible and efficient for families. This is just a visual of mitigation strategies review. So our goal is to do as many mitigation strategies as possible. Focus on prevention. So every time I have an opportunity to speak about school, I want to go in the opposite direction of when I was in school, where it was the focus on perfect attendance and you get a bike and you do all those. We're not there anymore. If you're sick, stay home, because one student showing up sick or one adult showing up sick could end up quarantining an entire class or half a school or whatever. So we'd rather you stay home for a day and then come see us and not to worry about the perfect attendance awards right now, okay? So it starts there at home, and then it works all the way through quarantine and isolation. We work very hard on ventilation, spending more time outdoors, air filtration, limiting our crowds, and focus on hand hygiene and cough etiquette. So that's really the work we've been doing. Fast and sensitive testing and tracing. We continue to partner with Chickahominy Health District if there is a positive case or exposure to do the contact tracing with them in partnership with them. Using any resources that we do receive to put right back in schools in terms of ventilation, in terms of hand washing. What is the stuff that we sanitize? How did that leave my head? With sanitizer and all those different things. So any grants and things we get, we bring right back into the schools. So physical distancing. So these are really the requirements that we're under as best practicable. Implement physical distancing to the extent possible. The word used to be maximum extent possible. Maximum is not in there anymore. It's to the extent that we can do it. I will tell you in some places, in some classes, we can be at 6 feet. I will tell you that in other classes and other places, we can't be at 2 feet. There's a reason we're building a new elementary school. We have a lot of kids. So in some places, 3 feet, even if we wanted to and was a standard, we could not do. But The nice thing about Senate Bill 1303, and I'll touch on that in a second, is distance should not keep kids away from being in school. The priority is for kids to be in school, and then we distance to the best around that. So we do not exclude students from in-person learning to keep a minimum distance requirement. That's very different than the standard we were under last year. So when not possible to maintain at least 3 feet of physical distance, the guidance is to layer multiple other prevention strategies. And feel free to jump in and ask questions at any time with the board, for the board. Additional mitigation layers, some of these I've talked about and we're in the visual. Really continuing to encourage staff and students to stay at home when you're sick. And that includes a daily at-home health screen. You know your student best. You know when they have allergies, you know when you have this, to really do those daily at-home health screens. We're going to continue our COVID cleaning protocols, which are just enhanced protocols for cleaning in between classes, after school, cleaning buses in between bus runs, you know, all of those things. Hand washing before and after use of shared materials, maximizing physical distance as much as possible. I can tell you though, if I have 25 kids in a football stadium, kindergartners, and I put them 20 feet apart, I promise you they're not going to stay 20 feet apart. So, you know, we can do some of that as possible, but, you know, kids are kids and we're social. So it's very difficult to keep that. Assigned seating, this is a favorite, in the classroom, in the bus, and in the cafeteria. So why assigned seating? If we do have a positive case or we do have an exposure, we know that I sat next to Ms. McBee and Mr. Hockman, and we kind of know those pieces. So that's the assigned side of that. We do that in the classroom and the bus most of the time anyway, not as much in the cafeteria. So we heard some comments about masks. I will tell you one thing that we have received is that per federal order, that masks are required on the buses. Our buses currently fall under public transportation. So bus, train, airplane, those kind of things. Is that the same as public transportation? That's an interesting one to me, but right now our ruling is that's where we fall off. So we do know that for sure currently. Contact tracing and quarantines. And then we're looking at visitors in the school. Last year, we were not allowing visitors in school. We're not taking that stance, but we do want to minimize those interactions. So working with principals and schools on that.
You know, Dr. Nichols, I think
Yes.
those points are very important to communicate to the public and the parents, because I think that you can never emphasize enough to parents, based on what you just said, is that the number one thing I believe through our conversations last year that was probably the most frustrating is that if parents know that their kid is not feeling well, do not put your kid on a bus. Just don't do it. I mean, as much as I know that it is a hassle, it is an inconvenience, but at the same time is that we found time and time again is that parents would send students to school and we would find out after they get here that they put them on the bus knowing that they didn't feel well. And so our concern overall educationally is that part of that mitigation process is, and I know this is a cliche word, but I think the expectation from all of us is just use common sense. I know that's a hard word today, you know, but it's a very hard word, but if people just use common sense, we're so much better off to minimize the risk at schools for teachers and staff and all of that. So I think
Absolutely.
that is just, we can never say that enough.
And I will be pushing out a video to families through our Facebook, through our website, so forth, using some of these slides tomorrow and kind of doing that walkthrough. So I'll make kind of emphasize that that's really the best thing you can do to help us, and the best thing our staff can do to help us, because as I said, one student coming in sick could put a whole class into quarantine. So those are some additional mitigation. We've talked about this quite a bit. So we had new guidance on July 27th, which was universal indoor masking for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status, which is different from the guidance we received a few weeks prior. And could be we could have new guidance before we line up again, September 7th. So, and for those of you online, we put the link in there so you can see the full text. But so that was guidance that we received just under 2 weeks ago. And this was the focus of the governor's press conference, or part of it, press conference. So two things: one, that state employees would be required to be vaccinated or submit to weekly testing. So K-12 employees do not fall under state employees. So we do not have that provision in place. We did verify that between Thursday and today. So Senate Bill 1303, school divisions must offer in-person instruction to all students. That's what it says. And then school divisions must follow CDC guidance to the greatest extent practicable, which is a word I've now said more in the past week than I think I've ever said in my life.
Is that even in the Webster's dictionary?
But what is, it may be in the 2022 version. But it's, what is practicable is what we work through. So give you an example of something that is not practicable for us to be at 3 feet in certain situations. I've already said that. We just simply do not have the space to do that. We want to protect our kids and protect our community to the greatest extent possible, knowing that it will be imperfect. I will tell you right now, we will have positive cases, we will have quarantines, we will have those. We had them last year. We're going to bring all kids back 5 days a week. It's going to happen. We're going to work through that with families. I would advise families to have sort of a plan B in case of a quarantine or a positive test. We'll work through you on making sure we can close the gaps in this instruction for students. But that's what Senate Bill 1303 says. And I do think we had some comments about Governor Northam's interpretation of Senate Bill 1303 versus one of the authors' interpretations done about with that as well. So it does expire, just interestingly enough, next year, August 2022. So it's not a law that's on the books forever and ever. It does have an expiration date. I believe that is hopefully because when we line up in August 2022, we're not in our 4th school year connected to a pandemic. So, so here's the quarantine guidance that the CDC has. So fully vaccinated people, we talked about this a ton last year. And this was a shift probably 3/4 of the way through last year. So fully vaccinated people do not have to quarantine unless symptomatic, okay? Non-vaccinated people, it's 10 days from exposure unless new school exception applies. I'm gonna get to what that new school exception is because that's new. So that's the general guidance. So we'll go to new school exception. So close contacts in school. So in indoor K-12 settings, a student who's 3 to 6 feet of an infected student is not considered a close contact as long as both students are wearing masks and the school has other prevention strategies in place. That's new this year. Last year, the mask did not come into the equation at all when we were doing quarantines. So that's a shift, just making you aware of that shift. Interestingly, this exception does not apply to teachers, staff, or other adults. So if 2 adults are within 3 feet and they're both wearing masks and they're not vaccinated, they still have to quarantine. So unless vaccinated. So that's a new wrinkle.
No.
So yeah, that's a new wrinkle. So I think pictures help sometimes. So these are pictures that kind of help me kind of walk through all the different scenarios with it. So this is under the CDC guidance of student quarantine. So if you have a positive case, we're at the top left. Can you move that? There you go. Thank you. If that positive case is a close contact with somebody not vaccinated, you do have to quarantine. Okay.
That's 10 days, correct?
Yes. Yeah. If that same positive case is close contact with somebody that is vaccinated, because vaccinations now run 12 to however old, then that student does not have to quarantine. Okay. So going down a level, student case positive, not vaccinated, wearing a mask, still have to quarantine. That same student with somebody that is vaccinated with a mask, the student does not have to quarantine. Okay. And then we do it one more time. Students wearing a mask is positive. If you're not vaccinated, you do have to quarantine. If you're vaccinated, you don't. So these are the decision rules that CDC has outlined schools. So just presenting those for you. Student school exception within 3 to 6 feet. So that's that school exception. If both students are masked, it doesn't matter if you're vaccinated or not vaccinated or not vaccinated, you do not have the quarantine. So that's the shift for this year versus last year. One of the things is we got so good at last year as they shifted the rule, we've had to reteach ourselves who quarantines, who doesn't quarantine, how it works, and all of those different pieces. So that's really where we are with the guidance and what we're working through. Just as a basic overview, full 5-day return to in-person learning. Pretty much the typical schedule that we had in previous years, maybe off by about 15 minutes to give us time to clean buses in between runs. I'm incredibly excited that our back to school events return in person. So we have back to school night, we have open house, we have 6th grade orientation, we have all of those things coming back. Buses, classrooms, and cafeteria spaces operate at normal capacity. So one of the biggest hurdles we had last year is we couldn't run buses at full capacity. It was 1 per seat staggered. Difficult to run 3,300 kids across 231 square miles when you can only load a bus at half. Now we can return to full capacity in classrooms and utilizing our cafeteria spaces as well. So, and then at-home daily screenings are still required. As we've said several times, we're really relying on families to be partners, which for the most part, our families have been great partners with it. So just continuing that work moving forward. When we come back for our work session in a couple of weeks, we'll take you through some more of the quarantines and then instructional decisions that we'll make. If a student has to quarantine, a staff member has to quarantine, if for some reason a class has to quarantine, or even if a whole school were to have to quarantine. We hope we're never at that place, but I found the more prepared you are for every situation, the less likely you'll need to utilize those. So we'll bring those back to you at our work session and provide any other updates. So that's really where we are at this time. Board members, if you have any questions or additional things you would like to see between now and August 23rd.
Board members, any comments or questions right now?
When it comes to, for lack of a better word, the return to learn this fall,
Return to in-person.
in person. Yeah, in person, good point, yeah. In person, 5 days a week.
Yes, sir.
And I guess for some parents to let them know that there are no restrictions on sports in the fall. We've already had sports that have already started. So we don't have those restrictions for attendance in sporting events as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. So VHSL last year had extensive guidance on how many kids and what. We do not have additional guidance from VHSL as of 7:08 on August 9th.
Not that we would listen to them anyway.
So, but we, fall sports are underway. Our golf team has had a couple of matches. Our football team is probably practicing right now. One of the hardest parts last year was getting used to football in March, February, and all the sports being out of season. But so no, all of that is in play and in motion. We did a great deal of rescheduling last year. If we did have a team that had a quarantine, if that occurs again, we will play anybody, anywhere, anytime to give our kids that experience. So, yeah.
Good.
Technically, we can't take questions from the audience, but grab me after and
If you've got questions, we all like to hear. You got questions, you got questions? We elected y'all. I mean, I understand you're not supposed to.
I don't mind following the protocol. When I was talking to some people about coming, we need to respect the form and the protocol. So it's not an emergency. I will ask it afterwards, no problem.
Right, and
Thank you for your indulgence.
And just to reiterate, this is a board meeting, it's not a town hall session. We certainly, all board members are available for questions, phone calls. Our information is public. Dr. Nichols has said that, he's available for questions as well. But please, just in the, just to keep to the agenda, we want to keep moving forward, but please do not hesitate to reach out to us individually for questions. But this is not a town hall, so we'll move forward. Board members, any other questions or comments?
So, Dr. Nichols, I'd like to hear a little bit about how we've talked about masks, how we address students with individual educational plans that have issues with speech intelligibility in particular.
Okay. In terms of masking. Okay.
Yeah, since that becomes more of a barrier to them in their learning.
Yep. We can bring that back. Absolutely.
All right, next item on the agenda is the gifted plan update, and this is in alignment with the essential goal number 1 to provide for and monitor the development of academic, organizational, behavioral, and social competencies to ensure individual student success. Mr. Ross Miller.
Yes. Members of the board, each 5 years, we are required by regulation to approve a new gifted plan. Most of that is taking our previous plan and looking at edits and things that we've worked on over the last 5 years to improve programming and then incorporate that into the new plan. Also, the state every 5 years does a technical review of our plan and then gives back recommendations. And so we take those into account. Last spring, we received that feedback from the state, and the gifted department met and made adjustments to the plan, presented that to our gifted advisory committee, which is a committee of parents and some of the board members on that committee. And everybody was in approval of that. And so this is just the next plan for the next 5 years and that we would like to work on. Most of the suggestions from the state were around basically getting more clarification, not really any changes to programming or anything. So a lot of it is just changing the language so that it's a little more clear. This is, I believe this is just first reading tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
This is the first reading, board members. This will come for vote then at our work session in 2 weeks.
So if you have any questions in between now and then, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we'll answer them at the work session.
Okay. All right, next item under new business is CIP transfer requests. This is in alignment with essential goal number 3 to obtain and align resources. Mr. Jonathan Hoffman.
Yes. Madam Vice Chairman, board members, Dr. Nichols, this evening I'm going to bring to you a budget transfer request. The first will be for the Basin Pond at the high school. The request is updating the scope of work on the Basin Pond to include reinstallation of the fence and 1 new gate. The total for that would be $15,833.50. The second is for HVAC repair at the high school. The request is for variable speed drive for the pump motors for the HVAC system in the high school. There are 3 needing replacement as they have failed, and they have 1 that is about to fail. The total cost there is $16,500. Thank you.
And hopefully that wraps up our Basin Pond work. You know, we've been working on that Basin Pond for quite some time. So, yeah.
The HVAC equipment in this building is
14 years old.
14 years old.
So that's at the end of life.
He said it was within the window of when we'd expect it to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And the great news, unlike the middle school, which their units are much older than 14, we can get replacement parts here, which we can at the middle school, which is why we're replacing full units. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, board members? We will be voting on this under action items. Okay. All right, moving along, agenda item number 8, old business. ESSER 3 plan update. This is in alignment with essential goal number 3 to obtain and align resources. Ms. Amy Moran.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Nichols, this is round 3. This is a American Rescue Plan ESSER 3 funding. And we have received about $1.8 million. We've gotten a lot of feedback, and tonight you have posted our plan. for you to review and for the community to review and provide feedback. It's a very broad bucket plan, different categories of spending that we like to present, and then basically take the time to have committee work in each of those different categories. So you'll read about prevention and mitigation strategies. This is furniture for extended learning spaces. We have 6 year-round subs in our schools, 2 at each elementary school, 1 at the middle school and 1 at the high school. We have 2 full-time learning coaches that we are extending through 2024. Ms. Winford, you spoke about the summer of more meaningful opportunities of real-world engagement, and this is something that we're very passionate about continuing into the school year. And so we've provided about $719,000 for those efforts, and that will be a group conversation with different people at the different school levels. We've called it like a Say Yes to Success campaign, something that teachers can request and then we can fund, different things in the classrooms. Other uses of the funds are Allison Anderson is with us now, and she has a lot of really great ideas around career switcher programs, dual enrollment endorsements, and apprenticeship programs for our staff. Also potentially a support position to help assist with the monitoring of the grant funds. We're going to bring this back to you every 6 months and review it and see where we are. Obviously, there were changing, the things that we're using the funding for is changing every day. So this could change, this could stay the same. I think we just take feedback and we try to do meaningful work with these funds.
We have till, just as a reminder, we have until September 2024 to spend these funds. So the team has done a great job of putting them into broad categories or buckets. Because anytime we make a substantial change, we have to go back and rewrite and go through an approval process. So we want to get our people smarter. We want to provide more opportunities for kids, and we want to make sure we prevent and mitigate. So anything in those 3-4 categories that we have is an allowable expense through this. So we position ourselves well as projects come up to be able to utilize that. If we need 10 more HVAC, variable speed driver, whatever those were, we would be positioned to do that under ventilation within that. So it's a flexible plan that we continue to get feedback, and as new initiatives occur, we'll be able to fund those opportunities too.
I think we're just trying to be really mindful of the work that we're doing, that yes, it's related to the pandemic, but it's also something that's going to move New Kent forward. And just really try to be creative with the use of those funds, not just buy X, Y, Z, because it's something we need right in this moment, something that's going to last and move us forward.
Within these funds, as we move forward, since we don't have to use them until 2024 or completion of them, this is a separate item and not necessarily included in our budget discussions, correct?
Yes and no. So we did include, if you remember, in the FY.
There were some ESSER funds in that,
Yes,
correct?
sir, and that was ESSER 2 funding. We're able to dip into different buckets at different times. There are not rules with ESSER 3. So in other words, we do not have to complete ESSER 1 and 2 before we start utilizing ESSER 3. There were rules about using ESSER 1 and prior to ESSER 2 and things of that nature. But so we will most likely start dipping into these. And once we kind of solidify those plans, we'll bring that back to you in a request.
But we're very careful not to dip into operating funds, keeping that as true operating funds, because once these funds go away, we're not going to get them again. And then we'd be left with layoffs or an inability to balance budgets. And so really trying to invest in people, programs, buildings, things that will last quite some time.
Yeah. The only positions we have right now are the instructional coaches. And we hired those in the current year. And so we're trying to cover those for about 3 years. But those are really elementary teaching positions, which you typically would have vacancies during the school years. And so that would not be something necessarily that we would not be able to shift over into our operating budget.
Okay, any other questions, board members? This is not an action item. As you said, this is a recurring item that will come back when the agenda is needed. All right, next, item 9, action items. The first item is to consider the approval of nominations to the 2021 VSBA Media Honor Roll. Do I hear a motion to approve the 2021 VSBA Media Honor Roll nomination as presented?
I move we approve the nomination of the 2021 VSBA Media Honor Roll as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, vote.
Aye.
Next, motion carries. Next item, to consider the approval of CIP transfer requests. Do I hear a motion to approve the CIP transfer request as presented?
Make a motion, we approve the CIP transfer request as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, vote please.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is upcoming meetings. Our next meeting.
It is August 23rd, right back in this location. It is a work session. And we'll dive into opening of school. We'll give an update on some of our facilities and the work we've done this summer, and come back to the gifted plan among other items.
So I guess we're really developing our home here in this building, right? To anticipate going back to.
We sort of, yeah, we definitely couldn't have fit in the courtroom tonight. So, yeah, but it does give us an opportunity to spread out a little bit. We can do some setup differently, so it's a little more conducive.
Okay.